Our forces must be capable of carrying out massive retaliation in the event of attack.
Kara, why don't you tell me about a little mythology?
All right, so today we're talking about foxes with 9 or fewer tails in various Asian folklore, including the kitsune in Japan and the kumiho in Korea. In these myths, the more energy a fox spirit accumulates, the more tails it has, up to 9. They can shapeshift, sometimes becoming a beautiful woman, and were seen similarly to fair folk in Europe as mischievous spirits who sometimes did good and sometimes evil. The Korean version was generally more straightforwardly evil, preying on specifically the livers of humans in order to increase their shapeshifting powers, and sometimes digging corpses out of graves to eat their organs. Also in the Korean version, the fox uses a magical marble to absorb human energy by sending it into the mouths of the humans, usually with a kiss while transformed, then pulling it back with their tongue. However, a human that swallowed the marble could gain a bit of that magical fox power and knowledge. It's said that a kumiho who gains enough energy by preying on humans can permanently become human and lose their evil character. And there are, even to this day, many Korean movies and TV shows about this, such as the 1994 horror film The Fox with 9 Tails and the 2010 drama My Girlfriend is a Gumiho.
I can think of another movie that has these in it. A very popular movie. They're in Shang-Chi.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They are.
Yeah, they just show them briefly, but they're in there.
And
yeah, I've always wondered what those little guys were. You know, they're super cute.
Yeah.
They got a lot of tails. They got all the stuff that one wants. But becomes a beautiful woman. You know, what's up with that?
Well, they do that to mess. I mean, the Korean version, which again is more evil, often becomes a beautiful woman in order to like kiss you and suck out your life force using its magic marble, and then maybe it'll eat your liver later. So that's definitely more of a honeypot stratagem.
Yeah, the Koreans are like the Eastern Europeans of Asia. We were talking about the butter cat last week and how it was cute till it got to Eastern Europe and it was evil. You know, that's kind of like what they did with the Koreans.
Honestly, that's maybe true.
With China.
Yeah.
Given their history with China, there's a lot of opportunity for belief systems to be vilified.
Right. Yeah. There's also a Chinese version actually, but it's really different. So I didn't go into it, but it's
right.
Basically the thing it has in common is the 9 tails, but otherwise it's very different.
Yeah. And then of course you can't leave out the Sonic the Hedgehog.
Of course, Tails. Yeah. And also Pokemon. There's a Pokemon called 9 Tails, which is like, it's just one of these. Like, it's very blatant. It's just a fox with 9 tails.
You know, this has me thinking a lot about sort of the connections that we have because of the internet. You know, the internet gets a lot of flack, but I remember growing up in Reading and the general consensus was that like Styles didn't get to Reading until 5 years after they were cool in the city and stuff like that. And, you know, it's interesting that this information gets around immediately now, you know, and my friend John lived in China and he talked about 4 stories out of China. God, I'm stupid for not knowing this, but there are 4 stories out of China that are sort of the equivalent of the Bible and William Shakespeare here, you know, how you can trace most stories back to the Bible or William Shakespeare somehow. One is Journey to the West, which I'm sure we've all heard the name of, but apparently there's 4 of them. And I always find these things really interesting, especially when I find like new media based on this old stuff. Yeah. You know, I don't even know if I should call it old stuff because to them, they're watching new media based on it, you know, but to me, it's ancient history, you know, but if you come over here and be all, oh, it's new media based on Native American history, I don't think I would call it this old stuff. I would call, you know, my lack of exposure to it. And then, you know, Japan, too, which is, you know, what we're talking about in Korea. You know, Korea, I think we're starting to get a lot of media and getting some of this stuff. But frankly, I got to tell you, the West I'm a little played out on Shakespeare and Bible stories. You know?
Well, a lot of Shakespeare's plots he did not make up. They were things that were popular at the time. He wrote the plays,
I know they were historical. What do you mean they were popular at the time?
Well, like Hamlet, for instance, he didn't make up the story of Hamlet, the story of like a prince of Denmark who sees a ghost and avenges. Like that was a book. There was a book called Hamlet. Yeah, he was basically a guy who did a lot of adaptations for stage.
What?
Yeah, no,
mind blown.
Yeah, I think Romeo and Juliet was based on something. I can't remember if Macbeth was, but almost everything he wrote he was not a plot guy. He mostly was like, that's a cool story. I think I can do it really well on stage. And, this made sense for the time because stage plays were sort of the equivalent of like blockbuster movies now.
Oh, right.
So it's like if a story has made it, like they'll make a blockbuster movie. Well, they made stage plays, right?
So Shakespeare was like the Harvey Weinstein at the time.
I mean,
Steven Spielberg at the time.
Yeah, he was more like the Steven Spielberg at the time. But the reason he's like groundbreaking for English-speaking people is not a lot of people were writing in English before him. So a lot, and he coined a lot of words. Before then, people wrote in Latin, people wrote in French, like they talked to each other in English, but it was considered sort of gauche to actually write things down in English. Chaucer wrote in English, and there were some other contemporaries and stuff. But I think a lot of Shakespeare was a genius, undoubtedly. But I think the sort of mythic reputation he has isn't proportional to his level of genius, right? It's right. A lot of it, I think, is because he was the first to be writing in this language, which happens to be the language of the people who later became like the dominant force on the entire planet.
Right. So, right place at the right time then.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, Shakespeare was real good at writing. I
don't know, man. There's a lot of famous white dudes that have built their stuff on the shoulders of less fortunate people. Elvis. Elvis is very much that.
Elvis is the one you went to? Well, yeah, okay. I see.
He very much did, left a lot of people in the dirt after he took their songs,
No, yeah. So, also to be fair, Shakespeare was not like stealing indigenous, like he was taking stuff that was like well-known classics at the time, right?
Right.
Like he didn't steal anything from anybody.
All right, fine. I'll give him a break. I'm just really disappointed that he's not the guy. I'm really disappointed.
He's a guy, but he's not. He's not a god of words or something.
Well, I hope a fox goes and digs him up and eats his liver.
And on that note.
All right, you're listening to Radio Wasteland. Come on back next week. It's going to be crazy.